got to say that the journey that we've been on has been long, it's been perilous, it's been incredibly ingratiating, where people have been so kind and compassionate and meeting the needs of our displaced citizens. But now we have a place called home. And when people come home, I am so excited to be able to give them the warmest welcome possible. And when we think about all of that wonderful support that we've received when we're out of the community, what I have to ask our citizens now is that when you come home and you know it's going to be different, and some of us have fared better than others, I know that we were a strong, good-hearted community before, and I know that because we've received so much, what I hope is that when we all come home, we help and support each other through this next phase of our journey.
All I can say is welcome back, family and friends and citizens of Fort McMurray. I'm so proud to have our home open again so we can get back to the business of life and enjoy ourselves. I would just say this, please act safely, act maturely, make sure that we do things right, and help your neighbors, help your friends, because we're all going to need to be in this together, because we are in this together. So if I can do anything to assist you, send me a message on Facebook or Twitter, or just give me a call. I'm here for you. That's what I do for a living, and I'm more than happy and proud to do it for you. So please let us know whatever we can do for you, and just take your time, enjoy yourself, and be safe.
I'm at McDonald Island Park with the Suncor Community Leisure Centre and Shell Place with Annette Antoniak, the CEO of McDonald Island. And there's a couple of big events happening on June 29th, events that are designed to bring the community together. What are the events, Annette?
Well, it starts off in the morning with our pancake breakfast from 9 a.m. till 11 a.m. And our feature is Brett Kissel, who will be performing that morning.
So he's going to be in the morning, pancake breakfast presented by Smitty's, correct? And people will have a chance to see him in action before he actually gets in action at Commonwealth Stadium in Edmonton.
That's right.
And there's an event happening later on that day. What is it?
There is. Our doors open at 4, and it's free for the entire community. And so we'll be taking the live feed from Commonwealth Stadium for the Fire Aid concert. And so at 5 p.m. it starts, and we have George Canyon, who will be emceeing the entire evening. And so we will have a satellite feed going back and forth from Shell Place to Commonwealth Stadium and back again. So you'll see all the performers that are playing at Commonwealth on a huge screen here at Shell Place. It's actually 32 by 42, so it's huge.
That's a big screen.
It is.
And that is, of course, the Fire Aid concert headlined by Nickelback at Commonwealth Stadium. That's a fundraiser to help support local charities right here in Fort McMurray. So you might as well come check it out here at Shell Place because it's free of charge, and that concert is of benefit to you. Anything else you want to add to that spectacular day there, Annette?
We just want to see everyone come out and enjoy and reconnect. People are slowly coming back into the community, and this is an opportunity to meet your neighbors, meet your friends, family, and enjoy an evening out.
Reconnect, that is the big word that we're getting out of this. We're trying to get a sense of normalcy here in Fort McMurray. Obviously, we know part of the town has been devastated, but this is your chance just to get back into a little bit of a routine and back with your community members to celebrate that we are strong and we are here to rebuild. Thank you very much, Annette, for joining us. We have more Fort McMurray Strong right around the corner.
There was nothing in this world that was going to let me leave that town. Yeah. Not with the guys out there. No way.
It was emotional for Assistant Deputy Fire Chief Jody Butts talking about not leaving his crew during the time of the wildfires. Butts had a role to play just like everyone else as he was analyzing the strategic perspective of fighting the fire. He spoke to me before about Birchwood Trails and wanted to show me more about what was happening to the downtown core after the city was evacuated on May 3rd.
The fire came generally from the south the first day, and then later on in the second day, the wind and the fire turned and went like this, and then the third day, it just swallowed the rest. It went like that. On day 5, I believe, the Clearwater River bank that everybody is known to, it's right there, and when you go downtown, you see it. It lit up. So when we talk about fortunate, I feel we were fortunate that night because it went through in the middle of the night, not in the middle of the afternoon with extreme fire behavior. So when it went through, it was raining embers into the downtown core. all of our firefighting efforts or resources were placed downtown, just hot spotting, and for a period of 3 to 4 hours, 5 hours, we prevented downtown from starting on fire.
This was yet another battle that was won by the fire department during this crisis. Essential services like the hospital were saved. Another downtown facility, McDonald Island, which happened to be the staging area for the first responders, was also under siege from the wildfire and something else.
If we were to find any humor in it, and maybe the guys won't think this is humorous, but it's in the middle of the night. The night is aglow. The bears. The fire pushes the bears across the river, and we had firefighters out there watching and hot spotting, bumping into bears. Fortunately, no one got hurt, but I could imagine a little bit scary in the middle of the night.
We have to remember the wildfire didn't last one day, it lasted multiple. And because of the heat from the fire, hot spots surrounded the city, which the department is still trying to eliminate.
Cold line it is the term that we use. You have to go there, you have to dig it up, you have to put your eyes on it, and you have to expose it to the air, put water on it, cool it down.
You have to realize in the muskeg regions, in the softer ground, the heat will stay at about 500 degrees, 18 inches below the surface, and will stay there for months. So the process has to be completed to eliminate any threat in the future. The firefighters are still looking out for the safety of Fort McMurray.
The initial work was putting the fire out and defending our city. The second was making it safe again. They did truly save our city.
With another untold story from the people on the ground and continuing to be Fort McMurray strong, I'm Doug Roxburgh.
At first glance, you'd think this was just a family cleaning out their garage, but it's actually a garage sale. A coffee maker here, toys for the kids over there. But what sets this garage sale apart from any other is there are no price tags. Each item is free. All compliments of the people like Jody and McSkimming in the strong community of Fort McMurray.
We just put together a free garage sale for fire victims. So we have a whole bunch of people in the community that are just dropping things off, and then fire victims are coming over and picking up everything that they need. So anything from pots and pans and toasters and sheets and towels and all of that stuff. So people drop it off and other folks pick it up. All kind of cups and stuff like that.
McSkimming is no stranger to stepping up for her community. In December, she helps fill 250 backpacks with the essentials with the group Santa Packs for the Homeless. Together with Jordan Adele Simon and the Facebook page YMM Helping Others, McSkimming is now helping victims of the Fort McMurray wildfire.
She was kind of advertising that they were going to put together families that they wanted to help on that page, and I just sent her a message and said, hey, let's partner together. So Jordan's been really kind of driving and finding the families that need the most help. And we've been collecting the donations and finding the people to sponsor the families to make sure that we get the right stuff into the right people's hands at the right times.
Since the beginning of the project, the garage sale has become a second job for McSkimming and has since helped an estimated 20 families, and it continues to grow.
We've kind of been putting in about 9-10 hour days just helping folks out in the community, and we probably are loading between 9 and 10 truckloads a day of fire victims going out with everything that they need, and we're probably receiving between 15 and 20 truckloads a day.
But that's not a problem for the longtime resident of this northern Alberta community, because this is where her heart is.
It's a big deal. I was born and raised in Fort McMurray, so this is my home. Being evacuated and coming back and still having a home made me feel extremely blessed. So the one thing I could do was offer the space to do something like that, but it's a heart-touching thing. You know, this is our neighbors. These are my people. These are who we care about.
Continuing to assist those who lost everything to the fire, for Fort McMurray Strong, I'm Craig Momney. "14-year-old Caitlin Lapine wanted to prove that age is just a number. As an avid animal lover and equestrian, Lapine wanted to take part in the pet rescue efforts, but was told she was too young. The teenager wouldn't take no for an answer, so she thought of another way she could help that was close to her heart.
I thought maybe I could plant trees for all the areas that lost their trees, especially because I ride horses a lot. And down on Tower Road, we lost all the trees in the trails. And that's really what started the idea for the trees, is after I saw that the trails were completely destroyed, and I went on them every day and they were beautiful and green, I wanted to get it replanted and get Fort McMurray green again.
Her initial idea was to assemble a group of teenagers under the age of 18 to assist in planting 200 saplings in areas where large amounts of trees were lost during the wildfire. But an email to a company in Prince Edward Island sparked something bigger than her and her mother initially expected.
She started a GoFundMe page, and then she reached out to Vessie's in PEI, and Vessie sent her an email saying, we have some trees that we could send you, give us an address. She gave them the address of the ranch that we were staying at, and they sent an email saying, we've shipped $13,000 worth of trees to you.
When I read the email, I was shocked. I didn't think they were actually going to be able to send many trees because they were just going to talk to their manager and see if they were able to, but they sent all their out-of-season stock.
The number of trees was too much for her and her friends to plant, so the Lapine family decided to give the trees away to McMurrayites to plant themselves, something Ray Fraser, one of the recipients of the trees, thought was a great initiative for someone so young.
I think it was a good thing put out by the kids that wanted to participate in helping out but weren't old enough, and kind of a good idea by them. Kind of a memorial tree so we get them to grow.
The forest will grow by itself, but when you're planting trees, you're basically symbolizing the rebuild.
When Lapine returns to the Wood Buffalo region, she plans on continuing that momentum by replanting white birch trees along the trails on Tower Road. For Fort McMurray Strong, I'm Craig Momney.
Getting out of a city during a mass evacuation was easier said than done, and leaving Fort McMurray, you only have two options: by land or by air. For those going by air, WestJet was one of the companies who stepped up to assist the people getting to safety.
The Tuesday when everybody was evacuated, we had canceled our service out of Fort McMurray. The next day, we went in and we had, because a bunch of people were stranded at the airport, so we put 3 flights in, and basically anybody who was at the airport at that time, we get on the aircraft. We want everybody to get to safety. So it was a little bit of just like whatever needs to be done to get everybody out, we did.
WestJet didn't just help those at the airport, as many residents were stuck north of town at the campsites provided by the oil sand companies. So with the support of Shell and Suncor, WestJet was able to get more workers, children, and pets to a safer environment through their chartered flights program.
So anybody who had arrived at these camps, we weren't charging them, but it was definitely being paid for by Suncor and Shell to, it was helping evacuate their staff, and then anybody else, including, children and a lot of pets. I'm sure you saw the social media feeds around the dogs on the plane. Anybody who showed up, get on the plane and we're going to get you out.
Getting out is just half the battle, as residents do have to return. So commercial airline services like Air Canada and WestJet have resumed operations and are doing everything they can to ensure residents make it back to Fort McMurray with minimal concerns.
We're making adjustments in different markets right across the country, adding more seats into Alberta, so those people that went back to Atlantic Canada, for example, we're now getting them back into Alberta to pick up their cars.
We do have a 25% promo code for flights up until July 31st. We have waived all baggage fees for people who are returning to the area and to Fort McMurray. We've also waived the pet kennel fees. We've worked with Transport Canada to ensure that anybody who did leave the area that doesn't have ID, that they will be able to fly. We just recommend that they get to the airport with extra time to make sure that they can have a full screening before they get on the flight.
So getting back will be made easier by the airlines as core infrastructure continues to be improved upon each and every day in Fort McMurray. The airlines will be doing what they can, and our Happy Air service has resumed to the north.
We'll just keep supporting this story and these great people of Fort McMurray.
Everybody's hearts have been with the community since we saw the devastation occurring at the beginning of May, and we're very proud to be able to support your community during this devastating time, and we're going to be here for you for the long term.
With an eye on the skies and being Fort McMurray strong, I'm Doug Roxburgh.
You know, it's really amazing. You know, they talk about Fort Mac strong, and really the strength of each individual came out at that time.
The time in question was the day of the evacuation from the wildfires. The individuals were the helicopter pilots, doctors, and nurses. The situation was getting dire as people were fleeing the city.
As you know, we've been calling this fire the Beast, and I had no idea how large a forest fire could get until I saw a fire of this magnitude.
And as the smoke kind of got bigger and bigger and closer, then it started to really get real. And then that's when I guess started kicking in that, okay, I think we might have a problem, I guess.
It was real, all right. The flames began to curl over the mountains near Abasand and made their way to Beacon Hill. So the hospital staff began getting patients to safety as quickly as possible. Most patients could be transported by the highways, but there was one patient who required immediate care in the intensive care unit. They had to be transported by air to the nearest facility, so with some quick thinking, Katie Kirshner called the local helicopter emergency response organization, HERO for short, for a big-time favor.
We got a call, I forget the exact time, it was in the afternoon, I believe.
Roughly about 2 o'clock, I believe it was, from the IC unit at Northern Lights Regional.
That some of the patients in the hospital couldn't be taken out by road, and we knew that it was about to be evacuated, so we were asked to come and see if we could bring some of them out.
So the other patients could drive out, but there was one that we knew needed medical attention and needed it sooner than later, so we had to get that patient out as fast as we could and as safely as we could.
The first thoughts of my mind, actually on the phone call request, I said, I think it would be best to get this patient sooner than later.
Based on the conditions of the wildfire, the assumption from Ken Dewick was correct. This phone conversation was the easy part, as the challenging part was mere minutes away. First, they had to navigate the blackened skies from Phoenix Heliflight to the hospital, and then they had to find a landing spot, because the Northern Lights Regional Health Center does not have a landing pad.
First of all, we had to deal with all the smoke and fire, so we had to kind of fly fairly low to get under everything.
And we were just picking our way through as we went down the Clearwater Valley towards waterways and then eventually towards the hospital.
We landed in the field adjacent to it.
And it was really surreal to just see this huge machine landing in a field where it should not be.
And we couldn't get the patient through the gate that had access to the field. So that was frustrating.
So then one of the helicopter pilots realized, hey, I think we have enough room in the parking lot to actually land.
We had to reposition the aircraft over into the parking lot, you know, not an ideal setting to land the helicopter.
So we had to clear out some cars in the parking lot to make enough space to bring the aircraft in so that the patient could be wheeled directly into the aircraft and then flown from there.
With no landing pad, if it wasn't for the quick thinking of the pilots, who knows what could have happened to the intensive care patient. The actions taken by not only the pilots, but the doctors and nurses helped save a life that day. They don't want to be referred as heroes, though, as they are just part of a program that is designed for this type of situation.
Our program here is actually called the Local Hero Foundation, which stands for Helicopter Emergency Response Operations. So that's basically what I think of when I think of hero.
I'm glad the program exists so that we were here at the right time, at the right place to be able to, you know, do what we can in that kind of an emergency.
The fact that we have the helicopters that are able to come and assist us, especially just being so rural, that it's phenomenal.
Everyone has a story from May 3rd. This is just another one to add to the list, as together we are Fort McMurray Strong, and I am Doug Roxburgh.
Well, it's going to be a fabulous night. We are talking about the Fire Aid concert happening here in Edmonton, June 29th. That's this Wednesday, and I'm here with Alan Watt with the Edmonton Eskimos. Tell us a little bit about everything that's gone into creating this event.
Well, I don't know if we have enough time, but I'll give you the sort of
fast-tracked version.
Yeah, the elevator speech. First of all, the brick field at Commonwealth Stadium was selected because of its size. And secondly, it came about as a result of what happened in the big floods in Calgary. They did a flood aid concert, And 2 or 3 of the people who were heavily involved in that decided that they would approach a number of people in Edmonton to see if that was a good idea. And of course, who could say no, especially when we looked at the lineup that they had spoken about. So that's how it got started. And then the next point was to go to the city of Edmonton, because they're after all the landlord here at the Brickfield, and they were supportive of it as well. So once you had those 3 elements, so a good idea, people who are willing to step forward and find entertainment and acts, and people like Blue Rodeo and Nickelback, then you have something. And then after that, it was it's logistics and ticket selling, tickets. In our business, football business, and in the concert business, tickets are king. And so the next step in that was to find 2 or 3 people, and I think they found the right 3. In president of the Edmonton Eskimos and CEO Len Rhodes, they found Tim Reed, the president and CEO at Northlands, and Bob Nicholson, the president and CEO at Oilers Entertainment Group. And they said, we'll chair it. We'll use our horsepower and our credence in the community to go out there and say, this is a good idea, and we think you should buy a ticket. And that's pretty much what's happened.
Good. And I hear so far the ticket sales are going well. We don't know exact numbers, but things are sounding very positive.
Well, as you get closer and closer to concerts, the tickets, things start to, they can gallop on you, and that's good. The weather's supposed to hold, although one of the things they said that Fort McMurray during the fires was praying for rain, and so are we, but I'd prefer sunny. But yes. So Wednesday will be, I think, really neat. And the acts, of course, there's 12 acts, and I think there's something there for everyone. And the acts of all, the entertainment, the bands have all contributed their time. There's no fees to any of them, as there is for the rest of us who are out there. And I'm speaking on behalf of a very big organizing committee that's worked really hard on sponsorship, on tickets, and on backstage catering and all that kind of stuff. So if the concert happened at noon any day up until the day of the concert, it would still be considered a great success. But 4 o'clock on the 29th, we'll take that as a start time.
Alan, tell us a little bit about where the money is going for this concert. As you mentioned, a lot of the bands are donating their time. The services are being donated. This is a huge fundraiser for Fort McMurray victims.
Well, that was another part of it. The mayor of the Wood Buffalo region and Fort McMurray, Melissa Blake, also agreed to be of as much help as she could. She agreed to be an honorary chairperson, and she has. And she's leaned in on it a couple of times, thankfully. And then the other thing that she did was say that when all is said and done and people get back to Fort McMurray, and they are back now, a lot of them, not all of them, and the ones that are back are settling in, and the ones that aren't back or are just getting back might not have a place to settle into, and that will be dealt with. But then there are the long-range implications, which the United Way in any community, a good United Way, and they have one in Fort McMurray, they deal with all of that. When they see somebody sitting in front of ashes on a curb crying because they've lost pretty much everything, they have a way of picking them up and dealing with that. And so she asked if the money would go to the United Way, and we said absolutely. So that's where it's going. The funds, the net funds from this will go to the United Way in Fort McMurray.
There we go. Alan, thank you so much for your time. Alan Watt with the Edmonton Eskimos, the Fire Aid Concert, Wednesday, June 29th here at Commonwealth Stadium.
We're never going to forget. It's going to be something we're never going to ever forget. But in the same token, it's going to drive us to put things back together that much quicker.
Chris Hampton is one of many Shaw employees helping to get services back online in the affected areas after the wildfire. And he was eager to get back to work.
It was my chance to give back to it. Like, not as in a Shaw thing. I mean, that was part of it, but as my whole life, 16 years I've been here, and this has given me the most I've ever had throughout my life. So it was the one time I could give back to this community.
Hampton is part of a small team of 32 in Fort McMurray. They all safely evacuated the town on May 3rd, but not without loss. The homes of 4 employees, including Hampton's, burned down during the blaze. Hampton may have lost everything, but his spirit is still intact.
I'm not the type of guy that's gonna sit around and say that's not my job or leave it to somebody else. It's like, hey, we're here, let's do this, let's do what we can. And like I said, it's my chance to pay Fort McMurray back for all the things that it's done for me.
A lot of those people who lost their houses were the first to raise their hand and say, I want to get back, I want to help rebuild. We need to be there for our customers. And I think it was important for everybody to get back and help out as much as they could.
Known for their assistance in recent disasters like the floods in southern Alberta, Hampton says Shaw has been a big part in supporting those affected in Fort McMurray, and feels the company he works for looks at his customers more like a community than just a name on an invoice.
Shaw really sees our community as a family, not as individuals and people that just give us money for a product, right? I think we're a little bit more invested into our community than that, and that's what I love about this place.
A sentiment shared by fellow Shaw employee Colleen O'Hara.
We know what Fort McMurray is. Fort McMurray is not just the oil sands. Fort McMurray is a community. It's a home. Whether we have a home or not, welcome home and Fort Mac is back is so much more than just work. You know, it's community, it's pride, it's our homes. This is home, and this is where we belong, and this is where we will rebuild.
Sometimes people ought to think this is a transient town. You know, people come here for the work, but it's not like that. It's more than that. It's a family. It's a community, like an actual community. Like a lot of people come from other places and say they have a community, but when we overall look at things, I think that a lot of people would understand this is probably a better sense of a community than anything else.
Continuing to support those returning to the region, for Fort McMurray Strong, I'm Craig Momney.
We want to send a representative to each home and business. When we get there, we're going to have them do a safety inspection of all the gas appliances at that location. So they'll go through everything, make sure it's working properly, then we'll relight that customer. The way that we're asking people to contact us is through atcoresponds.com. They can fill out a form. They fill out that form. It goes into our call center and our dispatch. There are other ways though. We recognize not everybody has internet access, so they can also visit the welcome centers in Fort McMurray, and we have representatives at each one of those welcome centers to help people through the process, make sure that they get their service restored quickly and safely. So after you submit the request to have us come out and do a relight, put that placard in your window, someplace visible that our staff can see from the street. And as we're going through a neighborhood, if we see that placard, we're going to come to your house and we're going to get you relit. We're doing the exact same thing for businesses. Businesses call in, go through the same process, we'll show up and we will make sure that things are safe, we'll do the inspection, and we'll get them back up and running. Well, what it really will help us do is be more efficient at getting all those relights. They'll be able to go into a neighborhood, they'll see the placards, and they'll literally be able to go house by house, which really helps us be more efficient and helps people get their service back sooner. We are working closely to align with the municipality's schedule. So as they let communities back in, we're resourcing to be able to meet the demands of relights in those communities. Over the next week, we're going to have a large number of staff in the area being prepared to get out and visit all of those customers. Our people are trained. This is what they do every day across the province. They're the experts in the field, and we really want to go out. We want to make sure people's homes are safe before they get gas service restored to them. We want to come out and help them do that, and there's not a charge for us to come out and do that for people. Really proud of how everybody across ATCO has come together and supported this, whether it's the people working directly in Fort McMurray or the people back in our other operating centers supporting this. It's been fantastic, and we are really proud of how it's come together, and we've really enjoyed working with the municipality to make this a coordinated response. Really, the best thing people can do is go to atcoresponds.com. It has all the information they're going to need regarding restoring their gas and electrical service in the Fort McMurray area.
We have created this dedicated Shaw TV channel to help Fort McMurray residents stay connected to the latest community news and developments as they return home following the devastating wildfire in May. If you have important information or a story idea, please contact edmmc@sjrb.ca.